Ilias Trent pushed his boots through the thick undergrowth of Zyphora's forest, each step sinking slightly into the mossy floor. The trees were taller than any he had seen before, their trunks glowing faintly with a blue-green light that seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. Wisps of mist floated lazily around their bases, drifting over alien ferns and flowers whose petals shimmered with colors that did not exist on Earth. Every so often, he stopped to record his observations in a small digital pad strapped to his wrist. The forest was alive, and it seemed to notice him. He had come to Zyphora to study its strange flora and fauna, but the forest had already taught him to expect the unexpected. A low hum echoed between the trees, rising and falling as if the entire forest were breathing. Ilias had learned to move quietly here. Even a whisper could startle the smaller creatures that skittered through the foliage. He paused again, scanning the mist for movement. Something shifted near a cluster of glowing vines. A shadow darted quick and light, and then silence returned. He shook his head. Probably nothing, he murmured to himself, though his pulse had quickened. The forest seemed peaceful, yet he felt as if it were watching. Then suddenly a shout broke the silence. "Human, turn around! Someone took him my clothes." The voice was loud and urgent, with a sharp edge of fear or anger. It sounded like nothing he had ever heard before. He looked around, trying to find the source. The mist swirled in the distance, and then between the trees he saw her. She was humanoid, but clearly not human. Her skin glowed faintly in a soft shade of violet, her hair flowing in strands of silver that seemed to float as if underwater. Her eyes were large, almond-shaped, and shone with intelligence and panic at the same time. Ilias' mouth went dry. He had seen alien species in images and reports, but nothing had prepared him for meeting one in person. She was clutching at her chest, frantic, and gesturing wildly toward a clearing up ahead. "Human," she shouted again, "you must help me. Someone took my clothes. Please hurry." Yet the fear and urgency in her voice made him pause. She wasn't threatening him. She needed help. Okay," he said slowly, raising a hand in a gesture of peace. I can help, but who took them? You must come with me." He realized with a pang that it wasn't just clothing. It must have had some purpose beyond modesty. The forest closed around them as they moved deeper. Trees grew closer together, their glowing trunks casting strange shadows that danced across the mossy floor. Alien vines hung down, some wriggling slightly as if sensing movement. Ilias tried not to touch them, recalling warnings from his training about Zyphora's flora. Some plants were harmless, but others could paralyze a human instantly. Lyra, as she finally introduced herself, led him to a small ravine. She crouched at its edge, peering down into a cave hidden behind a waterfall. "The thief went there," she whispered urgently. "It is dangerous. Many have entered and never returned. But my clothes, I must retrieve them, or I cannot survive another hour in this forest. We don't know what's inside." Ilias peered into the darkness of the cave, trying to see anything that might indicate the thief's presence. A faint glow moved inside, tiny and quick. "It's small," Lyra said, "but clever. You must be careful." Ilias could hear the faint echo of dripping water and the scuttling of unseen creatures. He felt a twinge of fear but pushed it aside. Humans had faced worse. He just needed to stay focused. Lyra moved ahead of him, her movements precise and sure. She paused suddenly, listening. "There," she whispered, pointing toward a narrow passage. A tiny, fast-moving creature darted across the rock floor, clutching a shimmering piece of fabric. Ilias' eyes widened. It was about the size of a rabbit, with spindly legs and glimmering wings that caught the faint light from Lyra's skin. "That must be it," Ilias said, crouching to avoid drawing attention. "How do we get it back?" "It is too quick, too clever. We must trap it." She looked at Ilias. "Do you know how to improvise traps?" He explained his idea to Lyra, who listened intently and nodded in agreement. Working together, they set up a simple trap using rocks and vines. Ilias guided the rocks into place, while Lyra used her knowledge of the forest to predict the creature's path. They waited, barely breathing, hidden in the shadows. Moments passed, and then the small creature appeared again, clutching the shimmering fabric. It paused, sniffing the air, and then darted forward. The trap worked perfectly. The rocks fell, and the creature was temporarily trapped under a pile of light debris. It struggled, wings flapping wildly, but it could not escape immediately. Lyra stepped forward cautiously and retrieved her protective fibers. Her expression softened with relief. "Thank you, human," she said, her voice quiet but filled with genuine gratitude. "Without these, I would have been lost. Just glad we got them back safely." The forest was alive, the creatures were unlike any he had seen, and yet humanity's ability to think quickly, adapt, and improvise had made the difference. Lyra adjusted her glowing fibers carefully around herself. "You are clever," she said, eyes bright with admiration. "Humans are resourceful. I underestimated you." "You're pretty resourceful yourself. I couldn't have done it without you guiding me." He was beginning to understand Zyphora, and perhaps more importantly, he was beginning to understand that humans could thrive in places far stranger than their own planet. As they emerged back into the open, the forest stretched endlessly before them. The luminescent trees glowed softly under the alien sky, and the mist swirled around their feet. Elias took a deep breath, savoring the fresh, strange air. He looked at Lyra, who moved gracefully beside him, and felt a spark of excitement. This was just the beginning. The forest was vast, full of secrets and dangers, but also full of wonder. And for the first time in a long while, Elias felt that humans truly belonged among the stars, capable of facing anything, even a forest full of glowing trees, mischievous creatures, and alien emergencies. Lyra glanced at him, a small smile on her face. "There are many more challenges ahead," she said. "If you wish to continue, human, you must be ready for things you have never imagined." Mist curled around their ankles, and the air was heavy with the scent of alien flora. Every now and then, Elias thought he heard something moving in the undergrowth, small twigs snapping, soft rustling noises, but when he turned, there was nothing. The forest seemed alive in ways he could not yet understand, as if it were aware of their presence. Lyra led him through narrow pathways that twisted between towering trunks. "This forest is older than any human civilization," she explained. "Its plants and creatures have adapted to survive in ways you cannot imagine. Many travelers are lost here, not because of predators, but because they underestimate the forest itself. Not just with creatures, but with energy." When Elias stepped into them, he felt a faint tingling on his skin, as if the spores were sensing him. "What are those?" he asked. "They are harmless," Lyra said quickly. "Mostly. Some humans find them distracting, but they have no dangerous effect unless touched for too long. Even so, one must remain alert." The thief, small, quick, and clever, was ahead again, carrying a fragment of Lyra's shimmering protective fibers. It was like nothing Elias had ever seen: small legs, delicate wings that caught the forest light, and eyes that seemed to glow with intelligence. The creature was faster than anything he could have imagined. "There," Lyra whispered. "It is trying to escape deeper into the forest. If it reaches the next grove, we will lose it forever. We must act quickly. If we can predict its path and block its escape, we can corner it." It seemed to anticipate every movement, pausing when he thought he had it trapped, darting away the instant he moved too quickly. He realized that speed alone would not win. He had to be clever. "Follow my lead," Lyra said softly. She pointed to a cluster of vines hanging low. "It often uses this path. We can use it to trap it temporarily." Together, they positioned themselves strategically. Lyra used a small tool, a thin rod made from the living wood of Zyphora, to manipulate the vines. They twined together quickly, forming a barrier that could slow the thief without harming it. Elias placed rocks behind the vines, creating a small enclosure. The creature appeared again, its wings shimmering, carrying a fragment of the protective fibers. It paused, sniffing the air. Elias held his breath. Lyra's eyes glowed faintly as she focused on the creature, sensing its next move. Then, with a sudden dash, the thief lunged forward, and the trap worked perfectly. The vines closed around it just enough to slow it down, and the rocks shifted, blocking its retreat. The creature struggled, flapping its wings and squeaking, but it could not escape immediately. Lyra stepped forward carefully, moving with the grace of someone who had navigated these forests all her life. She retrieved the fragment of her protective fibers. Relief washed over her face as she held it close. "Thank you, human," she said softly. "I cannot survive long without this. You have saved me." There are others, but most fear this forest as much as humans fear death. The thief was driven by hunger or necessity. It did not intend to harm me beyond taking the fibers. That is why I must recover them quickly. Branches moved slightly to block certain paths, shadows shifted in ways that made it difficult to see, and faint sounds echoed around them as if the forest were whispering. It was beautiful, eerie, and intimidating all at once. As they walked, Lyra spoke more about the forest. "The creatures here are not just animals," she said. "They are intelligent in ways humans rarely expect. Some can mimic sounds, learn behaviors, or even solve simple problems. That thief may be small, but it has outsmarted many before us. That is why humans may survive here despite being outsiders. Your ingenuity, it is impressive. Elias and Lyra moved carefully along the riverbank, keeping their eyes sharp. Suddenly, a low growl echoed from the forest. Elias froze. He had learned to recognize warning sounds, and this was not the thief. It was larger, deeper, more dangerous. Lyra tensed. "We are not alone," she said quietly. "There are predators here that respect neither human nor alien. We must move swiftly, but not recklessly." The path narrowed as they approached a grove where the trees grew close together, their trunks forming a natural corridor. Elias noticed small, luminescent mushrooms growing along the path, casting soft light on the ground. "This might be it," he whispered. "The creature is leading us here. We must anticipate its moves." The creature faltered, trapped between their positions. Elias held his breath as it struggled. Lyra's hand reached out and carefully retrieved the fragment. She held it close, relief washing over her face. "We have it back," she said softly. "Thank you, human. You are remarkable. We make a good team." "We have succeeded for now," she said. "But this forest is full of surprises. There is much more to see, much more to survive. Perhaps you are different from the others who have come here. Perhaps you will endure." Elias felt a thrill run through him. Excitement, curiosity, and a growing confidence in humanity's ability to survive in even the strangest of worlds. Lyra glanced at him, a faint smile on her face. "Come, human, the forest has more to teach and more challenges await. You must learn quickly, for survival depends not just on strength, but on wisdom, courage, and understanding." Yet he also knew one thing with certainty. Humanity could face anything, even in a forest where the trees glowed. The creatures were clever, and the unexpected was the only constant. Together, they vanished deeper into the alien mist, ready to chase the thief further and confront the mysteries that awaited them in the heart of Zyphora. The deeper they went into the forest, the stranger the world became. The trees grew taller, their glowing trunks now stretching so high that their tops disappeared into a misty canopy. Tiny lights drifted through the air like floating stars, and the forest floor was covered in moss that seemed to pulse underfoot. Elias felt a mixture of awe and unease. Every step he took reminded him that this was not Earth. This was a place where the rules of nature were rewritten. Lyra moved ahead of him with ease, her violet skin glowing faintly in the forest light. She seemed perfectly at home, navigating between thick roots and glowing mushrooms, but Elias struggled to keep pace. His lungs burned slightly and his legs ached from the long trek, but he forced himself to move steadily. He could not let his fatigue slow them down. The thief who had stolen her fibers had led them far from safety, and if they lost it again, survival might become much harder. "The forest changes as you go deeper," Lyra said softly, breaking the silence. Her voice was calm, but Elias could sense a note of warning. "The trees respond to movement. Some creatures hide, some stalk, and some test travelers. You must be alert at all times. One mistake can be fatal." "I'll watch every step." But he noticed something odd. The fish were not just swimming. They were moving in patterns, almost like they were signaling to each other. Lyra noticed his gaze. "The forest is alive in ways you cannot imagine," she said. "Even the smallest creatures communicate in ways you might not understand. This is why humans must rely on both observation and reasoning to survive here." "Predators," Lyra said quietly. "They are not always aggressive, but they are curious. Curiosity can be deadly here. We must move carefully." Lyra smiled faintly. "I have spent my life here. I understand the forest and its creatures. You are clever, but the forest is cunning. You must learn its ways." Humans had faced challenges before, and though this was unlike anything on Earth, he knew that creativity, observation, and quick thinking could make a difference. They reached a small clearing where the light from the trees formed patterns on the ground, almost like a natural map. The thief appeared again, darting from shadow to shadow, clutching another fragment of Lyra's protective fibers. Elias crouched low, thinking quickly. "We need a strategy," he whispered. "We can't just chase it. It's too fast and too clever." Elias noticed small details, the way the mist shifted, the faint glimmer of light reflecting off the thief's wings, the movement of leaves that indicated which direction it might go. Suddenly, the thief darted toward a cluster of glowing flowers. Elias acted instinctively, using a stick to nudge a nearby rock. The sound was subtle, but it startled the creature just enough to slow it down. Lyra moved forward and guided it toward a trap she had prepared using vines and rocks. The thief struggled but could not escape the makeshift enclosure. Lyra quickly retrieved the fragment of fibers. Relief washed over her face. "We have it back," she said softly. "Thank you, human. Your cleverness is impressive." But their relief was short-lived. A distant roar echoed through the trees, deep and resonant. Elias froze, listening. Lyra's expression darkened. "That is not the thief," she said quietly. "That is a guardian. It protects the deeper parts of the forest. We must be careful. It will investigate disturbances." He had faced predators before, but never anything that seemed to be intelligent enough to patrol territory and react strategically. The forest was alive in more ways than he had imagined. Lyra gestured for him to follow closely. They moved through a dense thicket, keeping low and quiet. The roar came again, closer this time. Elias caught glimpses of a massive creature through the mist, limbs long and lithe, eyes glowing faintly, moving with a grace that belied its size. It paused, sniffing the air, then disappeared into the shadows. "We are lucky," Lyra whispered. "Most travelers are not noticed until it is too late." He realized that every step in this forest required attention, intelligence, and courage. Humans were not naturally adapted to this place, but their ability to observe, reason, and improvise gave them a chance. They came to a stream where the water was clearer, reflecting the glow of the trees above. Lyra knelt, dipping her hand into the water. "We must rest briefly," she said. The forest allows no pause for the unwary, but a moment to regain strength is necessary. "You must be ready." Elias felt as if the forest were testing them, waiting to see if they were clever enough to survive. Finally, they reached a grove where the trees grew so close together that only narrow paths remained. The air was thick with mist, and the ground was slippery with wet moss. Elias noticed that the thief had paused, as if sensing danger. It darted forward, then stopped, hesitating. "We can corner it here," Elias whispered. "We need to act quickly and carefully." The creature struggled, wings flapping, but it could not escape the trap. Lyra stepped forward and retrieved the last fragment of her protective fibers. Relief and triumph washed over her face. "We have succeeded," she said softly. "For now, at least. The forest is full of surprises. There are greater challenges ahead, but you have proven yourself capable. Humans may endure here if they are clever and brave. That is the human way, resourceful, brave, and curious. Perhaps that is why humans endure among the stars." He had learned that survival here required not just strength, but intelligence, observation, and cooperation. The forest continued to stretch endlessly before them, and Elias knew that the journey was far from over. The thief had been only the beginning. Deeper challenges awaited, ones that would test every skill he possessed. Yet, despite the dangers, he felt a growing excitement. He was a human in a world that was alien, unpredictable, and beautiful, and he had already proven that humanity's ingenuity could make a difference. Lyra glanced at him, her expression serious but calm. "Come, human. The forest has much more to teach, and we must be ready for what lies ahead. Only by understanding its ways can we hope to survive and thrive." The glowing trees grew taller and thicker, and their trunks were covered in strange patterns that seemed to shimmer and shift as if alive. The mist became heavier, curling around their ankles and drifting through the gaps in the roots. Small lights floated lazily in the air, sometimes drifting close and then vanishing as if shy. Elias felt a mix of awe and unease. Sci-fi was alive in ways that were both beautiful and dangerous. Lyra led him carefully over roots that twisted like snakes and around glowing fungi that pulsed gently under the mist. "We are approaching the ruins," she said softly. "They are ancient, older than any living memory of my people. Few enter and fewer return, but the thief will likely take the fibers there. It will feel safe among others of its kind, and it will be protected by the traps and guardians left behind. We will need both our skills to succeed." The structure was made of smooth stone that glowed faintly beneath the moss and lichen covering it. Strange markings ran along the walls, some resembling symbols, others twisting patterns that seemed to shift when Elias looked directly at them. The air was cooler here, and the faint hum of energy vibrated through the stone. "This place is alive," Elias whispered. Lyra nodded. "It is." Every stone, every mechanism, every living part of these ruins responds to intruders. You must move carefully, think carefully. Only then can we succeed. Small glowing insects flitted around, illuminating strange mechanisms embedded in the walls. Elias crouched, examining the symbols. They were intricate, but he could sense patterns, mechanisms triggered by movement, light, or sound. Suddenly, a loud click echoed from above. A panel in the ceiling shifted, revealing a small trapdoor. Elias jumped back instinctively. "It's ready to strike," he whispered. Lyra nodded. "Yes, many traps respond to motion. We must avoid stepping on certain panels or triggering sensors. Watch closely." It glanced back, its glowing eyes meeting Elias for a brief moment. Elias felt a strange connection, not just predator and prey, but two intelligent beings aware of each other. "We can corner it here," Elias whispered. "But we must be clever. The ruins are designed to protect it. The traps are predictable if we observe carefully. Follow me. We will use it to our advantage." He realized that even a single misstep could trigger a dangerous trap. Lyra gestured for him to stay low. "Observe first, predict the path, then act." "Follow my lead," Lyra said, her voice calm but urgent. She began stepping carefully, her glowing skin lighting the way. Elias mirrored her movements, stepping only where she had stepped. The thief darted between the shadows, unaware of their careful navigation. They reached the center of the chamber. The thief froze, realizing it was trapped by the narrowing walls of the room. It flapped its tiny wings, squeaking, but there was no escape. Lyra stepped forward, reaching for the last fragment of her protective fibers. Her hands trembled slightly, though her expression was steady. Elias watched in awe. "You're incredible," he whispered. "Even in this strange, dangerous place, you stay calm. Survival depends on focus and precision, and now, with your help, we succeed. But the forest and the ruins are full of challenges. There are greater dangers ahead, and we must be ready for anything. That is why humans endure. Even here, on a world unlike your own, you have proven capable." At one point, a section of the floor shifted beneath them, revealing a narrow gap. Elias froze. Lyra stepped forward, her glow illuminating the edges. "We must cross carefully," she said. "One misstep and the mechanism will activate." He felt a thrill of relief. Every challenge they overcame strengthened his confidence, proving that human ingenuity, combined with Lyra's knowledge, could navigate even the most alien dangers. They finally reached a chamber filled with ancient inscriptions and strange machinery. The air was cooler here, and the light seemed to shimmer in patterns across the walls. Lyra moved closer to a pedestal at the center, examining the remaining fibers. "This is the heart of the ruins," she said softly. "It protects the creatures here and their resources. Many have tried to enter and failed, but we have succeeded because we observed, we adapted, and we acted together. The way everything works, it's like a living puzzle. Humans are good at solving puzzles." The thief remained hidden, but it no longer posed a threat. Elias realized that intelligence and strategy had won the day, not brute strength or speed alone. As they prepared to leave the ruins, Elias felt a sense of pride. Humans were small and fragile compared to Zyphora's giants and its clever creatures, yet their ingenuity allowed them to survive where others would fail. Lyra adjusted her protective fibers, glowing softly in the light of the ruins. "Come," she said. "We leave now, but remember, the forest still tests us. Every challenge teaches a lesson, every danger reveals strength. You have proven that humans can face even the strangest worlds and endure, but there is more ahead. The journey is not yet over." Together, they moved back into the forest, leaving the glowing ruins behind. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with challenges they could not yet see. But Elias felt ready. He had learned much, and he knew that with Lyra's guidance and his own resourcefulness, humans could endure in even the most alien and dangerous places. The forest seemed to shift around them, shadows moving, light flickering, creatures calling in the distance. Elias walked beside Lyra, confident that humans could face the unknown and emerge stronger. The journey through Zyphora had tested them, but it had also revealed the truth. Humans were clever, adaptable, and resilient, capable of thriving in worlds far beyond their own. Lyra glanced at him, her expression serious but approving. "You have learned well, human. Survival is more than strength. It is wisdom, courage, and understanding. You have all three. Together we can face whatever the forest and its creatures throw at us." "Let's see what's next." They had retrieved the protective fibers, but the forest was far from safe. Every step brought new challenges, and Elias knew that their journey was reaching its climax. The deeper they went, the more alive the forest seemed, as if it were aware of their intentions and ready to test them one last time. Lyra's glow illuminated the path ahead. "We are nearing the heart of this forest," she said softly. "There is one final challenge before we can consider ourselves safe. The main guardian waits there. It is clever, strong, and protective. It will test everything you have learned." He had faced traps, clever creatures, and even ancient ruins, but this felt like a battle of wits against something far beyond his experience. He adjusted his equipment and took a deep breath. "I'm ready," he said. "Whatever it is, we'll face it together." Do not underestimate it, but do not act recklessly. Observe, anticipate, and adapt. Its skin shimmered like liquid metal, and its eyes glowed with intelligence. It observed them silently, tilting its head as if evaluating their worth. Lyra stepped forward, her voice calm but commanding. "We have come for the fibers, Guardian. We mean no harm. Please allow us to leave safely." Elias realized it was communicating, though not in words he could understand. The vibrations seemed to echo through his chest, making his entire body feel alert. "It is testing us," Lyra whispered. "We must demonstrate cleverness, not force. Follow my lead." He scanned the clearing, noticing small rocks, vines, and moss-covered surfaces that could be used to create a distraction or maneuver. He realized that brute force would fail. They needed strategy. Lyra moved first, stepping lightly and producing a small device from her belt. It emitted a faint hum that matched the rhythm of the Guardian's vibrations. The creature's head tilted as it focused on the device. Elias followed her example, using his own tools to create a pattern of light and sound that mimicked the Guardian's pulses. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the Guardian shifted, lowering one massive arm and testing their response. Elias realized it was probing their intelligence, seeing if they could think and act in harmony. He signaled to Lyra, pointing to a gap in the Guardian's stance. Together, they moved carefully, stepping in sync and using the environment to guide the Guardian's attention away from the path they needed to take. The Guardian made a sudden movement, and Elias felt a surge of fear. But Lyra stayed calm, adjusting the timing of their steps, and Elias followed her lead. They had learned much in the forest, the value of observation, anticipation, and cooperation. Their combined ingenuity allowed them to navigate the clearing without triggering the Guardian's defensive mechanisms. As they approached the center, where the last fragment of Lyra's fibers rested, the Guardian lowered its glowing limbs. Elias understood that this was a test of trust and intelligence. It was not attacking, but it was evaluating their choices. Lyra stepped forward and retrieved the fibers, holding them close. "We have completed the challenge," she said softly. "Thank you, human, for your courage and cleverness. You have proven that humans can survive even the most difficult trials. The forest is strange, but we learned how to navigate it together." Lyra adjusted her protective fibers, securing them around herself. Relief and pride were evident in her expression. "With these restored, I can survive comfortably in the forest again. But more importantly, you have proven that humanity has qualities to endure where others might fail. Observation, creativity, courage, and persistence. These are human strengths." They moved forward, deeper into the glowing forest, though now the tension had eased. The mist swirled around their feet, and small creatures peeked out from the shadows, observing them curiously. Elias realized that the forest, though dangerous, was also alive and vibrant. Its challenges were meant to test and teach, not merely to destroy. "Do you see how the forest responds?" Lyra asked. "It changes based on our actions. It tests us, but it also rewards those who are clever and cautious. That is why it has endured so long. Only the capable can navigate it successfully." "Yes, and that is why humans are respected. You face challenges directly with intelligence and courage, and you persist even when the path is difficult." Every trap, every challenge, every clever creature had taught him something new about survival in alien worlds, and about the human spirit. As they emerged from the densest part of the forest, the glowing trees began to thin, and a soft breeze swept through the clearing. Elias looked around, taking in the beauty of the alien landscape. Despite the dangers they had faced, he felt a profound respect for this world and for Lyra, who had guided him so skillfully. Lyra stopped and adjusted her glowing fibers, securing them carefully. "We have survived the trials," she said. "The fibers are restored, the Guardian has accepted our passage, and we have proven ourselves capable. You have learned well, human. Your adaptability and courage are remarkable. You have demonstrated all of these qualities." They had faced an unpredictable forest, clever creatures, and ancient guardians, and they had succeeded. Elias realized something important. Humans could survive in worlds far beyond their own, not because of sheer strength, but because of their ingenuity, adaptability, and courage. The challenges of Zyphora had tested every skill he possessed, and he had learned that intelligence and cooperation were as vital as bravery. Lyra turned to him, her glow faint but steady. The forest has taught us much. It has tested your courage, your intelligence, and your resourcefulness. Humans are remarkable. Even in a world so different, your species has proven capable of surviving and thriving. That is why humans endure among the stars. You are clever, adaptable, and courageous. You have proven it here. The thief, the guardians, and the ancient ruins had all been obstacles, but they had overcome them through observation, strategy, and cooperation. Elias realized that the journey was more than a challenge. It had been a lesson in the resilience and ingenuity of humanity. Finally, they emerged from the forest completely. The air was fresh and open, and the alien trees gave way to distant mountains under the twilight sky. Elias took a deep breath, feeling relief and exhilaration. They had survived the forest and its challenges, and in doing so, he had discovered something fundamental about humans, their ability to adapt, think, and persevere. Lyra adjusted her fibers once more. "We have succeeded," she said softly. "The forest has accepted our passage, and we have proven ourselves capable. You have learned well, human. Your courage, intelligence, and cooperation have allowed us to endure. We endure because we adapt, think, and act together. That is what makes us remarkable. You have proven that humans can survive anywhere, even in worlds that are completely alien." They had succeeded, and in doing so, they had demonstrated the resilience, intelligence, and courage that made humans truly remarkable. Elias felt a surge of pride and hope. Humanity could face challenges beyond their planet, survive alien worlds, and thrive in the face of danger. The forest had tested them, but it had also revealed the truth. Humans endure, adapt, and overcome. Lyra looked at him, her eyes glowing softly in the twilight. "Come, human, the universe is vast and there are more challenges ahead. But you are ready. Humans endure because you are clever, brave, and resourceful. You have proven it here." Together, they turned from the forest and walked toward the unknown, ready for the next adventure, confident in the power of human ingenuity, courage, and perseverance.